Alaska doesn't test rifles. Alaska executes them. Salt spray off the Bering Sea, glacial silt packed into every crevice, alder thickets so thick you can't see 3 feet in front of your face, and somewhere in that darkness, a 800-pound brown bear that already knows you're there. Your rifle will work. Not probably work. Not worked fine at the range last October. Work right now. First pull, no excuses. Here's the thing, nobody tells you before you book that Alaska hunt. Most rifles will fail out there. The blued steel rusts overnight. The walnut stock swells and shifts your zero. The bolt freezes so solid you can't cycle it with 2 hands. And when that happens, when that mechanism fails at the worst possible moment, no amount of caliber, no amount of money, no amount of prayer is going to save you. So we cut through all of it. No marketing, no sponsorships, no fanboy nonsense. 7 rifles. 7 that have actually been dragged through the muskeg, soaked in coastal rain, run bone dry in 40 below interior cold, and came out the other side still sending rounds downrange exactly where they needed to go. Number 1 on this list is going to change the way you think about Alaska hunting forever. Let's go. Look, every list has to start somewhere, and we are starting with a rifle that a lot of guys seriously sleep on. The Weatherby Vanguard. Built in Japan by Howa, and yeah, I already hear the complaints. But here is the deal. Howa's manufacturing tolerances are so brutally consistent that Weatherby puts a sub-MOA guarantee right on the box. 3 shots inside 1 inch at 100 yards, straight out of the factory. Not a marketing claim, a written warranty. Try finding that guarantee on most American-made rifles at this price point. Under the hood, the Vanguard runs a 2-lug push-feed bolt with an M16 style extractor. That extractor wraps aggressively around the cartridge rim and holds on like a set of locking pliers. It is not a Mauser claw, and we will get into exactly why that matters when we climb higher up this list. But it is one of the most dependable extractors in the entire push-feed world. The cold hammer-forged barrel delivers match-grade accuracy that used to cost you twice the money. And the 2-stage trigger gives your gloved finger a clear, tactile warning right before the wall, right before the break. In 40 below interior Alaska, that physical feedback is the difference between a clean shot and a pulled shot. For Alaska specifically, lock onto 2 variants. The backcountry gets a Bell & Carlson hand-layered composite stock with aluminum pillar bedding and tactical gray Cerakote baked onto every single metal surface. The Obsidian drops the price even further while keeping a weather-resistant synthetic Monte Carlo stock, a threaded barrel ready for a suppressor or muzzle brake, and a matte, non-reflective finish that will not blow your position on open tundra. Both are available in 300 Winchester Magnum, enough terminal energy to anchor coastal brown bear and Yukon moose at distances where lesser cartridges are already running on fumes. The deal breaker? That push feed action. In a genuine panic situation, a short-stroked bolt cycle when a bear is closing the gap at 30 yards, the Vanguard does not have the mechanical insurance of a controlled round feed system. A panicked half-stroke can stack rounds and lock the action at the worst possible moment. That is not a fatal flaw, it is just a ceiling. And it is exactly why this rifle sits at number 7 instead of higher. The damage to your wallet runs around $500 to $600 depending on the variant. For that money, in Alaska, it is an absolute steal. Next up, stepping up the game. And this next one is going to make the weight weenies very happy. The Tikka T3X Lite Stainless. Made in Finland by Sako. Yeah, the same company sitting higher on this list. And it shows. Because the Finns do not build soft rifles, they build tools. And the T3X Lite is the kind of tool that makes you forget you are carrying it, right up until you need it. Here is what most people miss about this rifle. Yes, it is a push feed. Yes, it runs a 2-lug bolt. And yes, the traditional crowd will tell you that disqualifies it from serious Alaska. But those people have never looked at Tikka's manufacturing tolerances. That bolt cycles like it is riding on polished glass. There is zero wobble, zero slop, zero hesitation. Sako's cold hammer-forged barrel feeds into that action with a precision that makes feeding failures essentially a non-event. Out of the box, this rifle prints sub-MOA groups before you even think about hand loads. Now, the T3X generation brought some upgrades that matter specifically for Alaska conditions. The ejection port was widened and angled more aggressively, meaning you can thumb single rounds into the action while wearing thick insulated gloves without fishing around blind. The old plastic bolt shroud got replaced with solid metal to better protect the firing pin channel from ice and debris, and a steel recoil lug replaced the old aluminum piece, meaning the action stays put under the violent punishment of Magnum cartridges without slowly walking itself loose over thousands of rounds. At approximately 6.4 pounds, the T3X Lite is a legitimate mountain rifle. Dull sheep hunters grinding up the Brooks Range day after day will feel that weight savings in their knees and their hips by the end of a 10-day spike camp. The modular synthetic stock lets you swap grip panels and adjust fit for different shooting positions. Critical when you are improvising rests off rocks, packs, and trekking poles on steep alpine terrain. The fully shrouded bolt body seals out pine needles, glacial grit, and ice crystals with impressive efficiency. The deal breaker here is financial. Tikka's proprietary magazine system locks you into their ecosystem. Spare mags are not cheap. They are not always available at your local gun counter in Fairbanks. And if you lose one in the field, you are running single shot until you find a solution. On a 10-day backcountry hunt with no resupply, that is a real conversation worth having before you commit. Sets you back around $800 to $900 depending on configuration. For a rifle that climbs mountains like a mountain goat and shoots like a bench rest gun, that is a serious value proposition. Sound off below if you have run a Tikka in the field. I know the fanboys will defend this thing to the death, and honestly, they might not be wrong. Now we get serious. And we are stepping into European precision engineering at its absolute finest. The Sako 90S Adventure. If the Tikka T3X is Sako's workhorse, the 90S Adventure is their crown jewel. Same finished DNA, same obsessive manufacturing standards, but dialed up several notches in every single category that matters when the weather turns violent and the terrain turns vertical. Here is the technical heart of this rifle and why it earns its place on this list. The 90S runs Sako's proprietary push-feed bolt, but do not let that push-feed label fool you. The bolt body is machined to tolerances so tight that slop and wobble simply do not exist in this action. Cycle it cold, cycle it wet, cycle it with frozen fingers at -30, it moves with the same smooth authority every single time. The cold hammer-forged barrel is free-floating from the receiver face all the way to the muzzle. Zero contact with the stock, zero pressure variation, zero accuracy shift when that stock absorbs moisture from a 3-day coastal rainstorm. But here is what genuinely separates the 90S Adventure from everything else at this rank. That trigger. Sako engineers built a fully adjustable system that lets you dial between 5 distinct pull weights without pulling a single action screw. In practical Alaska terms, you set a heavier pull around 3.5 pounds for early winter hunts when you are wearing thick insulated gloves and need to feel the wall through all that padding. Come September sheep season, when the temperatures are milder, you bring it down lighter for precise long-range shots across open alpine bowls. No gunsmith, no tools. Done in the field in 30 seconds. The materials tell the rest of the story. Carbon fiber components are integrated throughout the stock architecture, not as a marketing gimmick, but as a genuine structural decision that strips weight without sacrificing rigidity. The result lands at 6.5 pounds, heavy enough to dampen the sharp recoil impulse of .300 Winchester Magnum, light enough to not punish you on a 12-mile pack-out with a bull moose on your back. tungsten Cerakote and stainless steel construction seal every metal surface against the corrosive salt air of coastal Alaska and the bone-dry freeze of the interior. This is solid, but wait until you see the absolute monster waiting at number 1, because what sits at the top of this list makes even the 90S Adventure look like it is still figuring things out. The deal breaker on the Sako 90S? The price of admission. This rifle sets you back anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 depending on configuration and caliber. For a lot of hunters, that number alone ends the conversation before it starts. And honestly, at that price point, you are also entering territory where custom rifle builders start making compelling arguments. The Sako earns every dollar, but those dollars add up fast when you factor in a quality optic, premium ammunition, and all the gear an Alaska hunt demands. Eats 300 Winchester Magnum for breakfast, and does it with the table manners of a Swiss watch. Entering the elite tier, and this next rifle is going to make a lot of serious Alaska hunters nod their heads. The Browning X-Bolt II. Now, Browning has been building quality firearms for over a century, but the X-Bolt II is not living off that legacy. This is a genuinely evolved platform, redesigned from the ground up with the kind of deliberate engineering decisions that separate a great hunting rifle from an exceptional one. Let's start under the hood, because the mechanical story here is genuinely interesting. The X-Bolt II runs a 3-lug push-feed bolt with a 60-degree throw. 60 degrees. Most bolt-action rifles require 90 degrees of rotation to unlock and cycle. That extra 30 degrees of clearance sounds trivial until you mount a modern high-powered optic with a large ocular bell. And suddenly, that bolt handle is smashing into your scope housing on every cycle. The X-Bolt II eliminates that problem entirely. The short 60-degree throw keeps the bolt handle completely clear, allowing lightning-fast follow-up shots on a running moose or a bear that did not go down clean on the first round. The receiver itself received a complete redesign for the X-Bolt II generation. Browning increased the bolt's bearing surface area inside the receiver, meaning the bolt tracks straighter, wobbles less, and feeds with far greater consistency than the original X-Bolt platform. Pair that with a fully free-floated cold hammer-forged barrel and a bedded recoil lug, and you have a push-feed system that genuinely punches into controlled round feed accuracy territory. The DLX trigger system is a multi-lever match-grade unit, delivering a crisp break with 0 take-up and 0 over-travel. It fires like a light switch flipping off. Clean, predictable, repeatable. For Alaska conditions specifically, the Speed SPR variant is the one worth talking about. Smoked bronze Cerakote covers every inch of metal on that rifle. Barrel, receiver, bolt body, sealing the steel against coastal salt air, glacial moisture, and the kind of sustained wet conditions that turn a blued steel rifle into a rust sculpture inside a single week in the field. The Veritech synthetic stock is where Browning does something genuinely clever. You can adjust both the length of pull and the comb height without any tools. That matters in Alaska, because you might be shooting in a light base layer during a warm September caribou hunt, and 2 months later, you are layered up in 4 inches of insulated clothing, trying to get a proper cheek weld behind the same scope. The Veritech system handles both situations without compromise. One more feature worth calling out specifically for cold weather Alaska use. The tang-mounted safety on the X-Bolt II includes a separate bolt unlock button. That means you can put the rifle on safe and still cycle the bolt to unload a live round from the chamber. When your hands are numb, your gloves are frozen stiff, and you need to clear that rifle safely after a long cold stalk. That button is not a convenience feature. That button is a genuinely important safety mechanism that other manufacturers have not figured out yet. The deal breaker? The Veritech stock system, while clever, introduces more moving parts and adjustment points than a traditional fixed stock. In extreme cold, those adjustment mechanisms can become stiff and difficult to manipulate. and for hunters who prefer the absolute simplicity of a one-piece rigid chassis with zero variables. The adjustability feels like unnecessary complexity rather than a benefit. Street price lands around $1,200 to $1,400 depending on variant and caliber. For a push-feed rifle operating at this level of mechanical refinement, that is serious money well spent. Closer to the crown. Closer to the crown, number 3 is going to make every traditional lever gun man in the comments lose their mind. The Marlin Model 1895 in 4570 Government. That is right, a lever-action rifle on a list of serious Alaska hunting rifles. And before anybody types a single angry comment, let me explain exactly why this gun belongs here. Because in the specific terrain where it earns its place, nothing on this list, nothing, comes close to what this rifle does. Picture this. You are a fishing guide on the Kodiak coast. You are waist-deep in a salmon stream, surrounded by alder thickets so dense you cannot see your own boots through the brush. Visibility is measured in feet, not yards. Feet. A 1,400-pound coastal brown bear materializes out of that brush at 15 feet, and it is already moving. You do not have time to shoulder a bolt action, acquire a sight picture, cycle between shots, and maintain target acquisition. You have about 1 second to put enough mass into that animal to redirect its entire body weight. That is the Marlin's universe. The lever action mechanism is the technical key here. Work that lever hard and fast, and you never break your cheek weld, never disturb your sight picture, never lose visual contact with the threat. Follow-up shots come out of a lever action with a speed and continuity that no bolt action can physically match at contact distances. And when you are running modern plus P loads from Buffalo Bore or Garrett cartridges through this rifle, 400 grain hard cast lead at close to 2,000 feet per second, you are generating somewhere around 3,500 to 3,700 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. That flat-nosed meplat punches a permanent wound channel through several feet of dense bear tissue without relying on bullet expansion. It does not need to expand. The diameter and mass do the work on pure momentum alone. Now here is the mechanical detail that makes this devastating in bush country. That hard-cast, flat-nosed projectile is specifically engineered for straight-line penetration. No jacket separation, no fragmentation, no deflection. It enters, it drives forward in a perfectly straight track, and it reaches the central nervous system, or vital organs of an animal that weighs nearly as much as a small car. The sectional density of a 430 grain projectile at 45 caliber ensures that momentum carries through bone, through shoulder muscle, through whatever barrier the bear presents. The modern SBL and Dark Series variants were built explicitly for harsh conditions. The Dark Series runs a Zytel polymer stock and high-temperature Cerakote finish on all metal surfaces, making it essentially immune to the corrosive salt spray that destroys conventional finishes on the Kodiak coast inside a single season. Barrel lengths run from 16.1 to 18.5 inches, making the whole package compact enough to wear across your chest on a pack harness or lash to the outside of a fishing pack without snagging every branch in the forest. The XS Ghost Ring sight system provides fast, instinctive target acquisition in low-light conditions. Exactly the kind of low light that exists inside an alder thicket at 7 in the morning. The deal breaker is real, and you need to hear it honestly. The 4570 Government is a specialist's cartridge. Effective range tops out around 150 yards in practical field conditions, and trajectory beyond that distance drops fast enough to make precise shot placement genuinely difficult. If your Alaska hunt involves open tundra, alpine glassing, long crossing shots on caribou or doll sheep at 300 yards across a mountain bowl, the Marlin 1895 is the wrong tool entirely. It is a scalpel for one specific job. In that job, it is absolutely devastating. Outside that job, it has significant limitations that the rifles above and below it on this list simply do not share. The damage to your wallet runs around $1,000 to $1,200 for the stainless and dark series variants. For a rifle that functions as pure life insurance in the thickest bear country on the planet, that is money that buys you something no other firearm on this list can provide at contact distance. Entering the elite tier, closer to the crown at number 2, we have the Ruger M77 Hawkeye guide gun. If the other hunting rigs on this list are finely tuned sports cars, this absolute unit is an armored personnel carrier built specifically for Alaskan guides, pushing into the dark timber after wounded brown bears. It features a bomb-proof investment cast stainless steel receiver paired with a genuine Mauser-style non-rotating claw extractor. That controlled round feed system grips the case rim the second it leaves the magazine, giving you total immunity to double feeds when your fine motor skills turn to garbage under extreme stress. Slings the massive .375 Ruger downrange with absolute devastation. Because it packs such a heavy punch from a short 20-inch cold hammer-forged barrel, the recoil hits like a swinging anvil. When you get on the gun, the trigger breaks like stepping on a dry pine cone in the dead of winter. Let's look at the muzzle system. Out of the box, it features a proprietary removable radial port muzzle brake. Instead of just forcing your shoulder to absorb the punishment, the brake vents high-pressure gases sideways and backwards to literally pull the rifle forward, counteracting the rearward momentum. But because guides absolutely hate the deafening side brake when standing next to a client, it includes a solid steel muzzle weight that matches the exact static mass of the brake. You can train at the range with the brake on to save your shoulder, then swap to the solid weight for the actual hunt without experiencing a single shift in your bullet point of impact. Honestly, the build weight on this thing is a serious deal breaker for some guys. The Green Mountain laminated wood stock prevents the warping you get with solid walnut, but it makes the rifle heavy and feels like you are lugging around a thick piece of furniture. It is definitely not a lightweight sheep hunting tool. But with rugged express-style iron sights, featuring a shallow V-notch and a massive white bead, you get instant target acquisition if a coastal predator charges and your primary optic gets fogged over in the rain. Taking the throne at number 1, we have the absolute pinnacle of Alaskan survival, the Winchester Model 70 Extreme Weather SS. This is not just a rifle, it is a lifeline in the last frontier. It takes the crown because it gives you the rugged, life-saving reliability of the Ruger Hawkeye at number 2. But with a precision match-grade feel that puts the Sako 90S at number 4 to absolute shame. It perfectly bridges the gap between a custom mountain gun and a heavy-duty brush gun. Eats 30-06 Springfield for breakfast. It utilizes the legendary pre-64 style controlled round feed mechanism. That massive Mauser-style claw extractor grabs hold of the cartridge rim the second it leaves the magazine. And that fixed blade ejector throws empty brass clear across the snow. When you are staring down a charging Kodiak bear, you need absolute certainty that your weapon will cycle. And this platform delivers without question. Looking under the hood, you get a premium Bell & Carlson composite stock built with an integral aluminum bedding block. Instead of just bolting the steel action into a hollow piece of cheap plastic, the stainless steel receiver sits perfectly locked inside a solid aluminum chassis, embedded deep within the hand-laid fiberglass and aramid fibers. That completely eliminates any torque or flex during firing, guaranteeing your zero never shifts, even if the temperature drops to -40 degrees. It utilizes the proprietary MOA trigger system. When you pull through, it snaps like a rigid glass rod, completely free of any mush or over-travel. Firing heavy rounds kicks like a dropped safe, but the factory Pochmeyer decelerator pad eats up the worst of that terminal energy. With its matte stainless steel finish and fluted barrel shrugging off the brutal coastal moisture, this rig is the ultimate insurance policy for the wilderness. Look, the last frontier does not care about your feelings or your brand loyalty. When you are miles from civilization, and the weather turns into a freezing nightmare, your rifle is the only thing standing between you and a catastrophic failure in the deep bush. The wilderness will relentlessly exploit every single weakness in your metallurgy and your bolt reliability. It does not matter if you go with a controlled round feed fortress like the Winchester or a precision push feed system like the Sako. What matters is that you put in the work before you ever step foot on the tundra. You need to strip out that factory lube with a harsh solvent so your firing pin does not freeze up into a solid block when the temperature plummets. And never forget the ammunition equation. A heavy custom rifle is absolutely useless if you feed it fragile bullets meant for thin-skinned white-tailed deer. You must run heavy for caliber-bonded core bullets or solid copper rounds that maintain massive weight retention to crush straight through dense muscle and heavy bone. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.